So today I'm going to show you guys how to print in the traditional Japanese woodblock style, but without the traditional Japanese Kento registration system. The Kento registration system is typically built into the block, and the Kento registration is this right angle notch down here on the bottom left, and then this secondary notch right here. The advantage to this system is that it's built into the block. So you carve it once and it's always there in relation to the image you want to print. The second advantage to the Kento registration system is that it's incredibly accurate. You never have to fiddle about trying to position your paper the right way. It's one less thing to think about when you're printing because you know that it's going to be a pinpoint registration, and when you lock in that paper, it's going to fall exactly where you want it to. There are drawbacks. The Kento registration system takes up space on your block. So this could be space otherwise used to make a larger image, for example. Here is a test block without the Kento, and as you can see, even though the block is smaller, I'm filling up the entire block with these test markings here. And it takes time to carve, and it can be difficult if you don't have the right chisel to carve the registration into the block. You can print in the woodblock style without the registration, but there's some things that you're going to want to keep in mind. This works best if you're printing single color blocks. Or if you're printing multiple blocks, it's not necessary that your registration line up exactly. Like you have some sort of buffer. Maybe the lines in your key drawing are super thick, so you can't tell if the two blocks aren't lining up correctly. Even though we're not using the traditional Japanese Kento registration system, we still need to build a registration system so we wind up with even borders on all sides. And to do that, we're going to measure the block and the paper. And when I measure blocks and irregularly sized papers, especially paper I've cut down for an addition, I really prefer to use the metric system, centimeters, because it's a lot easier to just do the math in my head and quickly figure out how much space I need on each side rather than using the English imperial system with all the fractions and everything. So we're going to do some quick measuring with a ruler that has centimeters. And when I measure this block, I'm going to write down the block width and height. And then I'm going to write down the paper width and height. Here, the width of the block is 11. The height of the block is 18. I'm putting this test block on a sheet of masa paper here that I've cut down to A5. And when I measure this sheet of paper, the width is 15 by 21 centimeters. Now that we have our dimensions for the block and the paper, we're going to figure out the size of our borders. And we're going to do that just by doing some math here. So our block, we have the top of the block facing up, right? This is the top vertically. The first step is to divide the two heights or lengths. So 21 minus 18 is 3. And so we then take 3, divide it by 2 for the top and the bottom. And so that's 1.5 on the top and 1.5 cm on the bottom. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing for the width. And so here, the width is 11 by 15. 15 minus 11, 4. 2 centimeters width, 2 cm width on each side. So 1.5 on the top and bottom and 2 centimeters on each side. We're not building the Kento registration into the block, but we are going to build the registration around the block. So I'm going to begin by placing the block where it's comfortable for me to print. And I'm going to throw down some blue tape here and here to create an L shape. And it's typically going to take 2 layers of blue tape. And what that's going to do is create a ridge that the block can bump up against. And so when I lock this block into place, when I move it against this right angle, it locks right into place. And I want to make sure it locks at a complete right angle. So I am going to add another registration notch right here about 2/3 away. And it's easy to do this on a self-healing cutting mat, because I can kind of rely on these lines. I typically don't like to rely on these lines when I'm measuring so precisely. If I were to lock this into place, as you can see, the block isn't even moving anymore. So it's very easy. Just if the block moves around during printing, that's one of the things that can happen when your registration isn't built into the block, right? You have 2 things that you need to register. You can always just slide this block directly into the tape. So now that we have this registration system, what we need to do is just consult my little template here. And I need 2 centimeters, a 2 centimeter border. So what I'm going to do is measure from here 2 centimeters and add another Kento registration. So we have there 2 centimeters, and here I'll measure 2 centimeters. So I'm marking it with my ruler. I'm going to line them both up very carefully and draw a straight line. 1. And so this is where my next layer of blue tape is going to go. But now we need to do the bottom. And so we are 2 centimeters out, 1.5 inches down. I'm going to measure 1.5 distance from here, the bottom of the block, 1.5 centimeters. Just adding some more blue tape here. I'm going to measure vertically down. When I measure vertically down, it's hard to see, but I'm kind of lining up this 13 centimeter line with my registration line that I drew earlier. Our registration, that is our paper registration. So it's 1.5 centimeter down and 2 centimeters out. So now I'm going to do the same thing and build it up. And you know what? I'm just going to draw a tiny little arrow here. So I know exactly where that line is. It's kind of hard to see because we have so much tape building up. And again, this is just like a really quick, easy, on the fly way to replicate that traditional system of locking your paper into place using the right angles. There. So the block, and then if I were to take my A5 sheet of paper, it locks and register it the same way I would a normal Japanese print. it locks directly into place. So again, instead of building that registration system into the block, instead of carving down into the block, we are building it up on our printing surface. And that is how you register your paper without the Kento registration system.